Okay, so here is an agenda of what I'm going to talk about in this video. So first, I will talk about my original thoughts writing this piece. So I'll talk about what this piece is about, the theme, and then basically how I structured the main way that I structured this piece, which is via the use of pitch sets. And also I'll talk about the overall structure. And the second section will be some post hoc interpretations of this piece. So basically, when I initially wrote this piece, um, there were things that I did according to my intuition. Which means that I did not know exactly or explicitly what I was doing. But then after I read more about some contemporary music stuff, music theory stuff, I came up with some ways to explain what I did, which really would just be my personal interpretations. So they might be wrong or you might disagree with them. And I would really actually appreciate any comments or suggestions on the things that I'm about to talk about. So the reason why I'm doing this is because I always think that, well, the human brain, when it listens to music, it kind of has like this machine learning mechanism sort of that it figures out patterns on its own. And sometimes it doesn't really explicitly know why, but then it produces stuff that might make sense. So according to some of the theory that I've read about, there are certain things that I think might be explained by them. So again, any suggestions welcome. And yeah, so I think now we can begin. And so regarding the first point, what this piece is about. So basically this piece is called Ritual. And this piece is just a musical like description of a ritual. So the kind of ritual described in this piece is not the kind of graceful, refined kind of ritual like what you would imagine happening like in a cathedral, like a mass in a cathedral, something like that. It's not like that. It's more like something that's described in Stravinsky's Rite of Spring. That's one of the inspirations for my piece. Um, but well, it's not like directly related, but I did get inspired by that. So basically in Stravinsky's Rite of Spring, that is also a contemporary piece. Um, Stravinsky describes scenes from a pagan Russian ritual. So yeah, so that type of ritual described in that piece is like pretty like ungraceful, even a little bit vulgar. So kind of crazy sometimes, especially in the part where like there's actually human sacrifice. So my piece is kind of similar. So the kind of ritual that I want to describe in my piece is a kind of ritual that's like, something that you might imagine, something that might have occurred like maybe 5,000 years ago or something. So it's not, it's like when people had like these like really primitive kinds of rituals. So that's the kind of ritual that my piece sets out to describe. And certain techniques that it uses, such as well, like these like really, I would say like primitive or not so refined sounding octaves, and these like block chords, like these all sound like really like straightforward, like not that graceful. So that also serves to convey that kind of idea, and I'll get to it later. So the primary way I structured my piece is the use of pitch sets. So basically, I have four main pitch sets. Um, all of them consist of six notes. One of them is the whole tone scale. Basically, I used primarily one variation of the whole tone scale. There are two variations. And just to define the concept, the whole tone scale is a scale made up of all basically whole steps. So C to D, whole step, whole step, whole step, whole step, step. And then I devised three pitch sets listed here. And just to give you a like more intuitive or obvious idea of what it sounds like, I'm gonna play a short video of me playing these three pitch sets. Okay, so now that you've heard what it sounds like, basically in that video, I played 1, 2, 3, and then I played 1 again. So the reason why I did that is because this piece is structured this way, because it goes back to pitch set 1 at the end. So basically my piece is structurally, it has two main sections. You might say it has a third really short section, but there are two like bigger sections. So the first one is basically the first page. And as can be seen from this breath notation, this also signifies the end of the first section. And in the first section, I used my first and second pitch sets, and also the whole tone scale. The whole tone scale is the thing that I use throughout my piece to sort of like tie the piece together. So basically, the pitch sets and the whole tone scale appear in a sort of like alternating fashion. And yeah, so and then my second section basically starts from here to basically this breath mark here. Um, yeah, so basically in this section, I introduce my third pitch set, labeled in green, also here. And this section has two subsections. So in each subsection, it starts like relatively calm, and then it goes to a climax. So there are two climaxes in this piece. Basically, the parts where it's fortissimo, these two parts, and then there's like this little transition sort of section, like really short. You see, like between these two breath marks, and then it goes back. Basically, this thing appeared at the beginning, and it sort of serves as a closure for the entire piece. So yeah, so basically, what I just talked about was what I thought of mainly, like when I was originally writing this piece. So later, I actually read a little bit more about some theory stuff, and I found that there might be some other kinds of explanations for the structure of my piece, which would be interesting to incorporate in my overall analysis of this piece. So yeah, so now here comes our section. So I just basically finished talking about the first section, and now we are here to this to the post hoc interpretations. So just to clarify again, all of what I'm going to talk about, except for the theory concepts, all of them are pretty subjective. Like they're just my own interpretations. So like you can have different interpretations, and they're very welcome. Like if you want to talk about this or like comment. So now I'm going to do a introduction of this concept of pitch centricity, and then I'll do a grand analysis of my piece. Okay. So basically, pitch centricity means the organization of pitch structures around one or more pitch centers, but not like in functional harmony. So to determine a pitch center, you need to examine the context. There are several ways to achieve pitch centricity. One way is to the use of pedal, and then also melodic motion, rhythm, and more. And we will get to that later when we examine the piece in detail. Okay, so basically, what I discovered after I wrote this piece is that I actually have a recurring pitch center, which is E. So this pitch center is stressed in various ways throughout the piece. So for instance, one way it's stressed is that it occurs on the very first beat. And then like also in octaves and also like appears like many times after. So as you can see from the yellow color-coded sections, that's all parts that have relation to the pitch center. Yeah, so this part is like less, but again, this is stressed in my final section, and then at the very end. Okay, so then I'm going to talk about some other ways. So apart from it appearing like just in really obvious ways, like on the first beat or like as an octave, that is like the most like the sound that you hear as loudest when pedal, because this piece throughout you need to like because throughout this piece you need to like use pedal. So yeah, that's one way that it's stressed. Another way it's stressed, so this, as we just talked about, has to do with the melody, and the rhythmic value. So basically, this melody, this melody made of a whole tone scale rests on E the longest. Um, and then another way in which this is the pitch center is established is that so this is like my melody of my second subsection. This is the first phrase, this is the second phrase, and basically the first phrase starts and ends on E, and the second phrase starts and ends on E as well. So that's basically establishing the pitch center via or reinforcing the pitch, because it can already be established by like the lowest resounding like pedaled octaves. So basically, the pitch center is reinforced via melodic motion here. Okay, and yeah, so these are some ways through which pitch center is established. And then I want to talk about this concept of planing. So planing basically means voice leading by parallel motion. And I discovered, so this part initially I wrote for fun. I just thought it sounds good. But then this I also discovered is an example of planing. As we can see, these things, these voices, they're all in parallel. Yeah, this is a very common technique that many composers use. So for instance, Debussy uses a lot of planing in a lot of his works. Yeah, and let's see what else. Okay. Yeah, so basically there's a lot of stuff. Probably can't get into it, get to them in one video. Um, yeah, and then I think I'll talk about some things that I think are pretty interesting that I later realized. So for instance, this is the climax of my first subsection of my second main section. Basically, in the first part at the beginning, it's like two voices. And then here it breaks out to three voices. So basically there's like an added middle voice. And another thing, so what is interesting about this part, I think, is that it is the part where the third pitch set is first introduced. And also this part, the middle voice is another whole tone scale. It is not the whole tone scale that we use most commonly, which is this one. It is the other possible whole tone scale. Um, and so basically, the appearance of the third pitch set coincides with the appearance of this other whole tone scale. So this, I think, adds drama to this climax. And another thing is that here is a transition. So this one is still part of the other whole tone scale, and this one is part of, so these pitches are part of our main or original whole tone scale. So these two things, they are of a similar form. So basically, like just like four notes, like you can see, like they, in terms of like shape, like they look similar, and also the intervals between each of the pitches is a whole note. Yeah. So basically, this is how I did this transition to the second subsection of my second main section. Yeah. So yeah, so basically okay. Yeah, so I think the last thing that I will talk about is three sets of repetition in my transition section, and then my third, like really brief third main section, or like you could say it's part of the second main section, but like I guess you could also say it stands alone as a third small subsection section. Um so basically so my first repetition is this one. So this is a complete set of my second pitch set. In terms of performance directions, I played it in a relatively detached way when it first appeared, and when it appeared again, it's supposed to be played in a very melodic and expressive way. So basically, in music, when you repeat something, usually you would want the second appearance of it to be different from the first appearance of it. Yeah. And my second repetition would be this. So this is an exact repetition. So these two notes are part of pitch set one. So basically we see that this is pitch set two, but then we introduce this foreshadowing thing of pitch set one. And you would only realize that at the very end when this is played again. So this echoes the previous appearance here. And my third set of repetition would be basically this section is exactly the same as part of my first two measures. So this echoes the very beginning and serves to bring the piece to a closure. Okay, so I guess that's it.